Hello YouTubers, I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Amps. Okay, now I don't know if you've been noticing, but kind of the tube amp prices have been skyrocketing lately, you know, for whatever reason. I'm sure there are several reasons, including the economy, inflation, so on and so on. Okay, and so that's not really good news now, is it? So one of my favorite amps is the Fender Super Champ X2. It's 15 watts, it's only got 3 tubes. I think it's 3, yeah. Or is it 2 tubes? I can't remember. Anyway, it's one of my favorite amps. However, another favorite amp is a big old Carbon 100 watt tube head, but I have it set to 50 watts. And that extra power really, like when it helps you to pull out chords really well. You know, it's not just a question of volume. Alright. Now, lying somewhere in the middle is the PV Classic 30. Very similar, in fact, to a Blues Junior. However, I think a little less expensive, quite frankly. New, however, right now, I've seen them anywhere from $6.99 to $8.99. Wow. I mean, that is some, you know, pretty expensive. Right. Now that's brand spanking new. Now on the used market right now, I've seen them for really old ones. I mean, like version 1 for like 400 and other used ones for about 500 to 600. Right? And I mean, that's pretty darn high. If you look at Guitar Center, right, I mean, they're pricing these at 5 something. Right? Well, I surely didn't want to do that. Now, I have a confession. I already own one of these. Okay? And I really like the sound of it. It's not as chimey as a Fender. You know, it kind of has its own sound. A lot of jazz guitar players like these. And the reason is it's kind of, I hate to say flat sounding, but it is in a way, as far as the top end. But it's real solid sound. It's the best way to describe it. So, you know, and I like to play in stereo, and you know, and my little Fender X2s are great. I mean, I really love the sound, and I continue to play them. But they certainly lack that power that a 30 watt tube amp, you know, double the power, makes. You know. And so I already had one PV Classic 30, and I thought maybe if I got another, right, because I like to play in stereo, that'd be really something to behold, I think. We will see. So, again, I looked around and I saw some for sale, you know. But because of the tube amps, I think, you know, I mean, you could add, if you wanted it shipped, you could easily add $100 or more to the price of the amp. Who wants to do that? However, I ran across one locally, and I'll tell you what, the anxiety of considering a purchase like that, you know, And it came down to the wire, and I thought, well, you know, if anything, I mean, I could resell it. Okay, besides all that, the night before I purchased it, I took my PV Classic 30, hooked it up with an AB switch, comparing it to the Fender Super Champ X2. And I hate to admit it, but man, once you dialed in that PV Classic 30 on the clean channel, it's just stellar. It's really pretty amazing. I mean, I was running the Fender Super Champ X2 through 2x12 cabinet, you know, and still the PV just had the right sound, you know. So it is a great amp, no question. Now, there's a couple of cons, of course. One is it's got 7 tubes. 4 EL84 power tubes, 3 12AX7 preamp tubes. Well, that's 7 tubes, and guaranteed a new set of tubes is going to be about $200. Ouch. Right. However, hopefully, you know, you don't have to change tubes all the time, you know. I mean, I've had mine for years and never had to change tubes, and hasn't really affected the sound, so it's good in that sense. Okay, here's another thing. Very well known that these have those, the construction of them is very strange because it has 3 PCB boards, right? And they're kind of folded. Bizarrely, isn't that bizarre? The reason I mention that is because if you do need it serviced, right, it's going to cost more than a standard amp just because it's a little more difficult to work on, you know. However, it's a really common amp, so you can get it worked on if you need to. Hopefully you won't need to. So that's one thing. The second thing is, my PV Classic 30 has the Celestion Midnight 60 speaker. Okay. And this particular one has a Blue Marvel speaker. Now I found the Midnight 60 on clean pretty good. Now the PV Classic 30 has been compared to Fender Hot Rod Deluxe, for example. But the one I have, I mean, I really like the sound of it. It's really quite amazing. If this one comes close to that, we're in good shape. Well, let's take a look at it. And here it is. The PV Classic 30, and I have to admit this one is in really good shape. Now granted, I had a few cobwebs in the back, you know, but it's really clean. So there's the Tweed Tolex or what have you. Pretty tough stuff, really. So it's got a handle, missing one stitch in the handle. Whoop-de-doo. Okay. And here we got the on-off, right? That's interesting, because mine has a bypass. This one doesn't, which is fine. I don't care. I don't really use that. Now I have to admit, if there's one thing I'd change is this pilot light. It's pretty sad looking. It's not like those round ones, you know, from Fender, but man. Effects loop, treble, middle, boost, bass, reverb, post, pre for the lead channel, channel switch, and volume. And I'm only going to use the clean channel on this amp, I believe. Now let's take a look at the back here. There we go. Pretty straightforward. It's got the reverb tank down there. Now here's what's interesting. Mine is sad. Mine only has a little box to protect the tubes. This thing's got this huge cage, right, going across here, which is pretty cool. And there are the 7 tubes. Count them. 4 power tubes, 3 preamp tubes. Pretty straightforward. And here, interestingly, look at that. The Blue Marvel 16 ohm speaker, 12 inch, of course. And this may seem like a small little amp, but let me tell you something. It gets really a huge sound. It can get very loud if need be. Alright, now this is an investment. You know, and this is something that can be resold if need be. And I mean, who knows what condition it's in really without popping it open, you know, and how long it will last. You know, maybe it needs tubes right now. I don't know. We're gonna find out. But it's really convenient. You know, the PB Classic 30 is known as a gigging amp, right? A reason being because it's small but has a huge sound. You know, I mean, you could play in a band with a drummer and that kind of thing, and it's plenty loud for that. So let's get it hooked up and take a listen to it. All right, now I've got the PB Classic 30s hooked up, 2 of them. Listen, do you hear that hum? Can you hear that? Alright? And I thought, man, what? Well, this is sad. These amps, you know, need a new cap job or something, you know. Replace the filter caps or what have you. But check this out. I had this cruddy cable, and it's next to a power supply. Watch what happens when I move the cable. Ah! Alright, so I know that cable's sad. Kind of crappy cable, but, well, okay. Alright, now listen. I'm very well aware that the PB Classic, you know, can do all kinds of different sounds, you know, even distorted sounds, you know, but for my purposes, I really want to use it as just a clean kind of pedal platform, as they call it. Basically just a clean channel. And well, check this out. Now here are just the 2 PB Classics with no effects or anything, okay? Pretty darn loud, and I mean, I have the volume at like, I think 2.5, something like that. So I mean, obviously these can get very, very loud. And in fact, one of the big things is, you know, I was comparing it to the Fender X2s, which I was running through cabinets, and basically you can get similar sounds. But the nice thing about the PB Classic is you just don't need a cabinet, you know. Now you can add one, right? But just, you know, big sound-wise, you don't really need to. And it's plenty loud. Alright, turn on just the reverb pedal. It's from the H9. It's one of my favorite sounds. So if I was playing live somewhere, this would definitely be the kind of the sound I'd be looking for. Well, I mean, that's as smooth as a baby's bottom. Big sound. And here I've gone extreme. I've got the Eventide for a reverb and Eventide for a delay, and a Specular Tempest for a delay too. And I mean, that is a really loud sound. Wow. That's just a big sound there. But notice it doesn't break up, right? So that's really good news. I mean, some people love that sound, though, kind of on the edge or break up, but I don't. I want it clean. You know, maybe too much so, probably. Just a huge sound, you know. By the way, I came up with a new chord. Check this out. I like this chord. Pretty standard chord, right? And then I came up with this one. We could do that, I guess. thinner sound. put on the neck pickup. The reason why I'm trying that is I was curious to see how it could handle the bass. You know, for some reason, the Classic 30 is not really bassy like a Fender amp would be. It has what I thought was less bass, but it's actually not true. It's actually a more balanced bass, quite frankly. Tell you, I mean, you would think it'd be the simplest thing getting a nice, clean sound, right? Especially from a tube amp. But I'll tell you, that is not the case, right? You know, I've often struggled finding amps that have a really nice, clean sound, you know, especially at louder volumes, for one, without, you know, freaking out and, you know, getting kind of distorted and things, or like it can't handle it type And you definitely want, a clean sound that's pleasing to the ear, even at louder volumes. And you think that'd be easy to find, but man, that is not the case. In fact, just recently, with a friend of mine, we went through how many heads? There's 3 or 4 heads. Tube heads, and they just didn't have the very nice clean sound. Now granted, these were high gain tube heads, but they kind of skimped on the clean sounds. And listen, the other thing is reverb, right? A lot of these heads didn't have any reverb, or if they did, it was the worst reverb ever. My friend always says that his Marshall's very nice, but the reverb on it is just the saddest thing ever. No good, really. Okay, so let's try that. So pretty good as far as the reverb on there. Nothing to complain about. Now personally, I like the reverb on the Super Champ X2 a little better, but it doesn't matter because I use a pedal anyway. Usually on top of just the amp reverb. I'm pretty impressed with that PV Classic 30. Can get a really nice, clean sound without distorting, even at louder volume levels. Now I love my little Fender Super Champ X2s. A very nice reverb, great clean sound, but they're 15 watt. That's all there is to it. And to make a comparison, a real comparison to me anyway, is the PV Classic 30 compared to the Fender Super Champ X2. I would say that the real big difference, of course, is the volume, but also as far as the size of the sound. The Fender Super Champ X2 has a little 10-inch speaker. And by the way, if you have a Fender Super Champ X2, dump that stock speaker. Man, what a piece of junk they put in there. It's the saddest thing ever. At louder volumes, the low end just kind of gives up. So dump those, and I'd highly recommend like a Cannabis Rex 10-inch speaker. I think it's like $100 or something to put in those X2s, and it sounds really great. Anyway, besides the point. Now, to get as big a sound that the PV Classic 30 produces with the Fender Super Champ X2, I have to hook it up with like 2x12 cabinets, or really good 1x12 cabinet, because remember, it only has a 10-inch speaker. Whereas the PV Classic 30s, there's just no reason even to hook up an extension speaker. I think that's one of the big differences between the two amps. That, and I think the only other thing is that, the PV Classic 30 has 7 tubes, right? And so that's going to be $200 to replace a full set. Whereas the little Fender Super Champ X2 is like $40 and it's 3 tubes. And as far as the clean sound goes, I'm really, really pleased with the PV Classic 30. At first I thought, man, it's kind of a flat guitar sound, not much sparkle and things. And it's quite true, really. If you compare to that little Fender Super Champ X2, which has quite a bit of sparkle type stuff. But I'm telling you, when you're using pedals, can't really tell that big a difference. And in fact, that flat sound really even works a little better. It's just a fuller sound, big sound, you know. So anyway, in the scheme of things, I mean, the PB Classic 30 is a real bargain as far as tube amps go. You know, they're very expensive, and I would put it up definitely Fender-wise against a Deluxe Reverb, Hot Rod Deluxe, somewhere in there. Just has a very nice, clean sound. Now I know that I have a Deluxe Reverb, and I know it has more bass and things. It's a big sound as well. And I think the PB Classic 30 is right along those lines. You know, now I know people are going to scream, wait a minute! Right? The Deluxe Reverb is the greatest clean amp ever, and so on and so on. But I'm telling you, well, you heard it, right? The PB Classic 30, I think, comes pretty darn close, you know, for just a basic clean sound, which is what I'm after. You know, I know you can, you know, turn them up till they edge of distortion and so on and so on. But for me, most of the time, I like the clean sound. So there you go. There's the PB Classic 30. Quite a bargain. You know, I mean, to buy a nice... It's comparable to buying a nice solid state amp. Pretty much. You know, if you get one used or what have you. But there's a cost to it, and that's the tube maintenance, you know. And hopefully, you know, nothing goes wrong where it needs to be serviced and that kind of thing. And that just always remains to be seen. But I've had one of them for a long time and just have not had to have it repaired or anything. Alright, so there you go. By the way, for those following the channel and have subscribed, you know, and I often reference older videos, we're taking a break from the pedal board series because I have a new pedal on the way for the pedal board. So we'll resume the pedal board build shortly, probably in the next video. Alright, very good. See you next time. Bye.